Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappingkatie.ctmh.com, and it is Sunday, which means that it is time for another sketch for the She's Crafty mini paper pad class. So let's take a look at what we've got.
So for I think we're in week 5. So for week 5, we have the sketch right here. So a lot of 3x4 photos, and then a journaling tag, and then of course you got paint splatters, and then your title. So this is the kit that I put together weeks ago that I've pulled out for this sketch. It's very travel related, and so I am excited to use some of these here. And then I have pulled out some photos and just used PicMonkey to make them 3x4 of a trip that we took back in 2016. So I've got those photos that I'll cut apart, and then of course I've got these that I've got to use, and then my 12x12 sheets that will be the background. So let's get started.
Okay, so I'm going to begin by just cutting the zip strip or the branding strip off of one of the 12x12 pieces of paper, and then go ahead and cut my photos apart. Now, once I cut them apart, because I'm taking away that little white border, they are a little bit less than 3x4. So I'm just going to search through these pieces that I pulled from my paper pad and see which one of these little 3x4 cards I want to use, either for titles or maybe just as is on my layout. So I've got these photos, and they're really not high quality, but I just love them. It's one of the first flights of our youngest son. All of our children, because my husband's family lives so far away, they all fly at a very young age, but it seemed like this trip was one that he truly actually got to remember, and he was super nervous. And of course, our middle son had to play in with that nervousness and make it super uncomfortable for our youngest son. So what you saw me do there is I just pulled out all my embellishments, and then I did have a package of wood shapes from Heidi Swap. So I pulled those out and kind of separated the ones that I definitely want to use. And then now I'm trying to decide which one of these 6x8 photo or 6x8 mini paper pad pieces I'm going to use. And I'm definitely going to use this lighter, it's almost like a turquoise or a mint color. I'm going to use it to back 2 of the photos, and then just use my paper trimmer to cut those down. Now there is just a tiny little border, probably a 1/16 of an inch. And then I am going to back that third photo with a different pattern paper. And I think I'm going to go with this red striped. So I've got that done, and I'm going to trim it down much like I did the other ones, and then I can start playing with the placement. Now, even though I love the happy travels of that big 6x8 piece of paper, I don't want the suitcases to show. So you can see here that I'm just decided to tear the top of that just to kind of add some interest. And then I'm definitely putting those photos over those suitcases. So this particular pattern paper had all these cute, like little luggage tags and boarding passes and stuff like that. So what I'm doing here is I am just fussy cutting some of those out, mainly just kind of grabbing a few of each. I really don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but I definitely want to have them cut and ready to go. So when I decide that I want to use them, then I don't have to do any more fussy cutting. So I finished that. There's only a couple of more that I'm going to do. And then I can start getting together all the other little embellishments. So here they are, and I'm going to move those to the side. And then I'm noticing on my sketch that there's a little tag that's meant for journaling over to the left. So I love that pattern paper with the airplane. So I've cut that down, but then I also want something underneath it. So I cut that kind of mint diagonal stripe down as well. And then I realized that I really love the yellow. So I'm going to cut just a 3/4 of an inch piece off of that yellow 6x8, and that way it can tuck underneath that mint stripe here in just a second, and it can bring that yellow all the way down to the bottom of the layout. So I'm pretty much happy with definitely the photo placement as well as those other pattern papers that I've picked out. So I'm just going to start adhering those down. And then before I put those on the layout too much, adhere them down, I definitely need to put these pattern papers down. And like you can see there, I've hidden those suitcases, and then I'm going to add this little strip of yellow just to bring that yellow down to the bottom of the layout. So right now I am thinking I want to use one of those embellishments that I included in the kit, and I am going to just trace around this little sentiment at the bottom of this 3x4 card, and that is what's going to show from the back of this little metal yellow um, tag, I guess. I don't know what, yeah, I don't know what that's called. So now I'm going to do the same with some of the other embellishments. I'm going to cut this yellow camera off of one of those 6x8 pieces. And you can see there that I've also pulled out a wooden camera and then another camera that came from one of my other embellishment sheets. And then I've also got that adventure that right there as well. And I'm loving the wood added to this layout. So right here, I'm taking some of those little pieces that I fussy cut, and I definitely want a grouping up at the top left or the top right. And then of course, I want them sporadic on the rest of the page. So I'm just trying to play with placement here to decide where I can put those other ones. So I have decided to add some ribbon. I believe this is where I add ribbon. Nope, not yet. Right here, I'm going to back this adventure just so it kind of pops off the page. So this again is another one of those little pattern pieces from that mini paper pad, and I've decided to use the orange. And here is where I decided to add ribbon around that little airplane piece of pattern paper. Now, since that is already glued down to my project, I'm just going to use glue dots to tuck in behind that. Now, I did not purposely, I did not apply adhesive on the very end of that piece of airplane pattern paper, just in case I wanted to tuck some embellishments underneath it. And that really came in handy when adding that ribbon. So right here, I'm just going to glue down this wooden adventure, and then I've got a little tiny paintbrush that I usually clean up any of that liquid glue. It dries clear, but I don't like having a whole lot on there. So I'm just going to glue down that little sentiment that's going to go under that yellow metal piece. And then I can start gluing down all the other pieces. Now you'll notice that I did add foam to the back of that airplane wing photo just so it would stick up just a little bit. And then I am just going to start adhering down all these other little groupings, and then as well as add additional embellishments. So I am going to add those little tags to that little ribbon. Now I've punched a hole, and then I'm just going to feed some of the same ribbon through that hole and just tie a simple knot and adhere it down with a glue dot and then some liquid glue on those tags. And I love that it kind of represents a luggage kind of tag with those tags coming off of it and then that ribbon. Now I've pulled out my stash of brads. I am going to adhere that yellow metal piece over that sentiment at the top left with some brads. And I'm just trying to decide which color. And I think I'm going to go with a turquoise color that's similar to that turquoise that is backed on those two photos. And then right here, I am trying to find a center for that wooden camera. I definitely want to use it, but I didn't know if I wanted to use pattern paper or what. So I have these big, they're corduroy brads. And so I've pulled out one at the center of that camera and then one up at the top near those other little tags, as well as put some matching brads in the top of those tags. So I'm just going to make a mark and then punch that brad through using my paper piercer as a starter. And then I am going to come in with this wooden camera. So you're going to see here, I end up pushing way too hard and broke the camera. So I had to I mean, it literally flew all the way across my desk. So we are going to piece that camera together just using the glue dots. And then I'm going to come back with liquid adhesive and just put over the little spots where that camera is broke, just to kind of make sure that those are really good, or that camera is really good and secure and glued together. So right here, I've misplaced that little paintbrush that I used. I'm just grabbing a little napkin to kind of smooth that out. And then I've also pulled out some white brads from my stash just to kind of add, almost to mimic that paint splatter from the sketch that we're using. But also I just had so much fun with the brads, and looking at my brad stash, I realized, hey, Katie, you're never going to use them all. So just throw some extras on this layout. So I definitely wanted to bring that wooden aspect to the top of the layout since we have the adventure and the camera at the bottom. So I'm just going to add another arrow over here to the right. This arrow actually is going to be these two little bitty arrows, and I'm going to put them down at the bottom near that corduroy brad and just adhere those with liquid adhesive. And then that way I've got that visual triangle of those wooden shapes. Plus I've got some at the top and the bottom. And so, if you recall, I did not add adhesive to the very top of this Happy Travels piece, knowing that this would be a perfect spot to hide my journaling. So, from my stash, I just pulled some Project Life cards, and those are going to be perfect for me to journal on. And then my family can always pull those out to read all the details of these photos. So here are some close-ups of this photo. Now, don't forget that I will link the video down below to the actual kit making process, as well as links to all the girls that are playing along with the She's Crafty mini paper pad class. I would love to have you visit all of those. And then also, if you liked what you saw, leave me a comment and give me a thumbs up. And I would love to have you subscribe and sign up for notifications so you'll be notified the next time I post a crafty video.